Good morning, Buff Nation, and thanks for joining us as we're going to talk Buffalo basketball today in one of the greatest seasons that the university's basketball program has ever seen, and one of the craziest endings, so to speak. It's the season that I guess technically didn't end, but it came to an end. 32-1 was the overall record for our Buffaloes. They were a perfect 16-0 at home. They won the Lone Star Conference tournament title for a third consecutive year. Tom Brown was once again named LSC Coach of the Year. They were number 3 in the NABC national polls, number 1 in the South Central region. And I think everybody on this call or on this Zoom has no reason to think that there might not have been another 6 wins, which is what it would have taken to win a national title. That will always be up in the air. That's something we'll visit with our head coach, Tom Brown. Just wrapped up. I don't know how this can be 6 years already. It has flown by so quick since your first year here, when you went 17-12, which was quite a turnaround from the previous year. You then posted win records of 22, 26, 32, 34, and this year 32 wins. It's been an incredible run. Tom, welcome this morning. Let's start just with your thoughts on a season that saw you win all but one game.
Yeah, boy, you said a lot there, Kent.
There's a lot to say.
Time has flown by. 6 years, and you know it's been a great run. You touched a little bit on that first season, and that first season was, it was an eye opener. It was a lot of fun. You know, just kind of scrambling to get a team together and trying to balance out the classes. With guys like Jordan Evans and David Chalvick, Tommy Gove, Rylan Gerber. I'll never forget Rylan Gerber. In our first meeting, we met in the Buff room, and we had all the players there that were anticipating coming back. And Rylan's eyes were just big as saucers, and he was just listening to everything I said. I don't remember everything I said, obviously, but he was really buying in. And then there was 3 other guys, Miles Gatewood and Tez Dumars and Antoine Ball, I believe, were really buying in. And those were our 4 guys that we had coming back from that first year. And then we put together some others with David and Jordan Evans and Jeff Bonner and some others. And away we went. I tell you, that first crew, though, that went through, our seniors, David, Jordan, Rylan, and Tommy Gove, they kind of set the stage, and with the great work ethic that they had. We didn't 17-12. A lot of teams would take that any year. That was our down year, record-wise. And so it's been a lot of fun. But you had to have guys that were willing to buy in right away. And I think those 4 horsemen there really bought in and kind of led us, as well as Miles, Tez, and Antoine. And also Jeff Bonner. Jeff Bonner, who's over in Arizona right now and in coaching basketball at the high school level. And he's really enjoying his time. And I know he's someone that was really proud of what he did here at WT and what we're doing right now. And that's the greatest thing, is when you have alumni like that call you up and tell you how proud they are of being associated with WT. And I think that's something that, that we've built over time here, Coach Gove, Coach Henderson, Coach Kratz, and myself. And I think that's something that speaks volumes of the program, the administration that we have, under the direction of not Dr. Michael McBroom, but Michael McBroom. It's Dr. Brown. Really, she's the one that's in charge. But Michael has been great to us, as well as you, Kent, and the rest of the administration. If you don't have everybody pulling in the same direction, it can go south very fast. So really proud of what we've accomplished, and it's been a fun run so far.
So that brings us to this season. As always, I guess with Ryan Quaid gone, everyone looks at the Buffs, Tom, as being undersized, but they're certainly big of heart and big of talent. Your only stumbling block all year was December 12th in Austin at St. Edwards, but then you returned the favorite Andre Cook's squad in one of the most incredible team comebacks I've seen in 35 years of college athletics, trailing St. Ed's in the conference championship final by 13 at the half. And then you run away and win by double digits. I think en route, we have kind of established a rivalry with St. Edwards with that, the way the crowd was getting into it, the emotion on the floor. Talk a little bit about this year's team and just the way they just stayed so calm regardless of the situation.
Yeah, they, that game, I talked a little bit about it before too. That game, just a lot of things went wrong. And we had a pretty good effort in the first half, but we couldn't make a couple shots. We were open. We didn't make a few. I remember Quay getting either poked it away or the ball was loose and he was grabbing it. It just kind of went off his hands and out of bounds, and we didn't get it in the first half. And we missed a front end of a 1-and-1 by a guy that's a really good free throw shooter. And some other things. JoJo did a couple things that just weren't, that just normally doesn't happen. And so we dug ourselves a hole. But I think JoJo, Quay, and the rest of the guys, they got in the locker room before us at halftime and, kind of looked around at each other and said, there's no way we're going out like this. And I think they kind of bonded together a little bit before the coaching staff went in there. And then we went in there. We tried to make some adjustments. We tried to, put our best foot forward. And it really comes down to the players. Our guys really came out in the second half and really played a great game. And like you said, that was a great comeback. It was unfortunate we got down by that much, but our fans never gave up. We had a great crowd there. I know we had some fans driving over from San Antonio over to Dallas and for those games, and it was great to have the fans that we do follow us. And I think that makes a big difference when you look up there as a player and you have the people pulling for you. And they had family there too. I mean, that's another big thing. Then you had alumni like Brandon Hall and Tez Dumars and some guys like that were over there. It makes a big difference. And it's a lot easier to give up when you don't have that support system. But our guys, I don't think we really ever are going to give up. I think our guys always believe whoever we're going to play, we're going to beat. And as long as you have that attitude, I think you have a chance to win any game possible. The game down at St. Ed's, I don't know if it's a rivalry. We'll see. We only play them once a year. I think a big rivalry is Lubbock Christian right now. I think they really get up for us, and I think we get up for them. Same with Eastern. But you're right. St. Ed's, we played them in some big games in the regional final. The Sweet 16. That's as far as they've gone as the Sweet 16. We did that up at Colorado Mines, so you could say we have a rivalry with Colorado Mines, but I don't think we really do. I think St. Ed's is really well coached. They're a good team, but I'm looking for Commerce and Midwestern and Angelo. The original Lone Star Conference kind of big boys. That to me, those are really rivals because those teams I think are always going to be really good. Now, St. Ed's being right in Austin, yeah. St. Mary's being right in San Antonio. There's going to be some great games, some great rivalries. But, it's nice to be able to play them more than once a year.
Tom, I know you were awfully proud of your seniors this year. You only had two of them, Eric Mosley and Jordan Collins. I see JC is with us on the Zoom here, so we'll try and get him involved in a minute. But you talked about Lubbock Christian. The game down in Lubbock this year, very emotional. And the story that came from the locker room was that Eric Mosley really stepped up and helped keep the team calm during a pretty stressful time as the Buffs pulled off their first win down there.
Yeah, those two guys, Eric and Jordan Collins, kind of silent leaders. They lead by example sometimes. And, Eric can get after a guy here and there. And I remember, we won't mention exactly what was said, but he got after Joe Prince one time in the locker room. Joe was kind of, pouting, and Mose kind of let him know a little bit what he thought. And I think Joe really, he didn't like it at first, but I think Joe really respected that. And Joe Prince was such a great player and a great kid. And, so proud of him to have his degree. And he's got a family that he started right now. And Mose did everything except probably score a lot of points. But he'd take charges, get rebounds, block shots. He'd come out of the game and he'd be, a lot of guys don't like to come out of games. They're kind of mad, coach, I want to stay and I want to play. Moses is coming out, hey, next guy up, let's go. And he's not a cheerleader, but he wants everybody to do well. And when you have a guy like that on your team, it really makes a big, big difference. And Eric's going to be really missed. And then you got, weapons hot and Jordan Collins coming in. And, you know, he hit some big shots in that conference tournament game as well as senior night. And, you know, just what a career he had, most wins ever at WT. You know, just phenomenal couple of players. And I love when you have guys like that are in the program for 4 or 5, and yeah, we'll say Eric Mosley 7 years, even though we were only here for 6. But, you know, you have guys in the program for a long time like that. It makes a huge difference. And we're going to lean on guys like John Brown and Quay and JoJo and Derek Geddes this next year. You know, those guys, just John is going to be a senior and Marshall Johnson will be a senior. But, you know, they haven't been in the program as long as Quay, JoJo, Derek. And so those guys will have to really be leaders, even as not as seniors, but as juniors, and then even some sophomores as well.
All right, before we move forward, part of the fun of these Zooms is you get to ask the coach a question. The rule is, this is basketball, so you've committed a foul. You got to raise your hand so I can see you. We're going to have to be patient today. We've got 58 participants, so I've got to wade through just a little over 3 pages to look for people asking questions. So if you've got a question for Coach Brown, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll get to you as soon as I can. There's Scott Gilmore wants to be first off the bat. Good morning, Scott. Go ahead.
Good morning. Coach Brown, I was just wondering about recruiting. Could you give us a little bit of an idea how recruiting is going and what kind of players you're looking for to add to the team?
Recruiting is going good. We're always looking to add good players. We've been doing a really good job. There's been a lot of junior college kids after Zach Toussaint, and that happens usually every year. We lost one a couple of years ago, and last year we survived the JUCO scare again. But, you know, we're trying to protect Jake and Zach, and I think we're doing a good job, but you just never know if one of those JUCOs will get their hands on them. But we're trying to fight them off. So recruiting is going good there. We do have some others that are probably going to be signing here in the next, maybe week or 2 weeks. And you got to look for announcements on that. I always check back at Go Buffs Go and for all the news on recruiting.
Tom, while we're talking about recruiting, how is it different for you this year? I mean, you didn't have any state tournaments to go to. There aren't club teams playing right now. How do you identify and, grade prospects? And that might also be a question for Coach Henderson.
Coach Henderson, you want that one?
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me out there?
You're good. You're good. Go ahead, Q.
I got HGTV on in the background, so I didn't want that to overpower me here. But, I don't know. Recruiting, I think the method's probably a little bit different. Obviously April is a big time for some of the AAU stuff. We're normally over in Dallas for 2 or 3 tournaments. You've got some JUCO showcases. And obviously that's gone now. So you don't have that option, but, I don't think your process changes. I think we've built really good relationships with a number of AAU programs, a bunch of high school coaches. We got some guys out there, Brady Moore in Houston, who knows some good players and has sent some guys our way. Ryan Gargaro up in Minnesota, just some quality guys. So you got to lean into your relationships that you have. You got to watch a lot of film, obviously, on guys, but at the end of the day, we're in a pretty good position. We're returning obviously 4 starters, bulk of the roster, and we've just got a few pieces we've got to put together, and hopefully we'll lock some up here in the next couple of weeks. But I think if you're trying to flip a roster and sign 7 or 8 guys right now, you'd be in trouble. And I think we're ahead of the curve in terms of that.
Okay, who's got questions for Coach Brown or Coach Henderson out there? Raise your hand and we'll come to you. Oh, there's a hand. Who was that there? Lucas Kinsey.
All right, my question is the 42-game home win streak. Talk a little bit about that and about what makes the Buffaloes so good at home.
Oof. Maybe the elevation. I don't know. Are we a little bit higher up than other schools? I think what makes us good at home is we've got a pretty good team. We've got, in the last 3 years, I'm very proud of the stat. I think our players are. I think the coaches are very proud of it. We've got the most wins in the NCAA. I believe we're just ahead of Gonzaga. Northwest Missouri State, which is a very good Division II as well, is right there. But we have the most in the last 3 years. And so I think we're pretty good on the road as well as at home. But at home, you come in and we've got a beautiful arena in the First United Bank Center. And it's something that you come into that place and, we get to practice there all the time. We get to have obviously our home games are there, and it's a little bit different shooting background because it's a bigger arena. Sometimes you go over to a place like Tarleton or, maybe down at, Western New Mexico, something like that. It's more of like a high school gym. And so I think that's an advantage. But then I also think of the travel too. When we have to go down to Kingsville, that's a 10-hour trip. We'll fly down there sometimes with budget restraints. Who knows what will happen next year? But, it's something that I think just the being comfortable at home, having that confidence, and having really good players, because we do have some really good players, and that makes a big difference.
Wayne Freeman, you had a question.
Yeah, I just was going to ask Coach, when you look at a team that you've developed and you've got a lot of young players on that team, how do you get better? What do you look at to get better with this team?
That's a good question, Wayne. It's, when you look up, and I don't know if you can see the picture or not, but you look up and you see Ryan Quaid and Gotch and Brandon Hall, and we lost those three guys last year. And it's like, okay, it's maybe we got to fall back a little bit. And if we can get to 20 wins, we'll have a good season. But, I think Ryan, Gotch, and Brandon knew how good some of these younger guys were. And you have those guys keep getting after it. And I think the one guy that really had a great summer last year was JoJo. He came back and he was really, really good. And he was good all year long. Quay Grant has a big game in the regional against Southern Indiana. I think he played really well, got to the basket. We just came up a little bit short in that game. But those two guys got a really, they got a taste of it. And those guys are leaders. And then you got a guy like Derek Geddes who came off the bench and now has started every game. He's got a taste of it as well. He knocked down a couple threes against Lincoln Memorial, who was finished ranked ahead of us, even though we beat them. Little sour grapes there by Coach Brown. But, it's something that they want to get better. JoJo, Quay, Derek want to get better. Now it'll be John L. wants to get better. Now who else wants to get better? Will it be Jake Gerber? Will it be Hayden Blankley? Will it be Kevon Booker, Zach Toussaint? And those guys want to get better. They don't want to just stay the same. They want to prove, hey, this was the best record that we've ever had. It wasn't the farthest we ever went because we made it to a Final Four with David Chavlovic and those guys. But I think next year's team, they want to win it all. And, you can talk about winning it all, but you got to get it done in the summertime when the coaches aren't around, and you got to really push yourself. And if those guys can do it, there's minutes for those guys that maybe didn't get as many minutes this year. And I think they know that, and they're going to really push themselves to get better. And, our goal is to win every game. We had the one slip up this year down at St. Ed's. St. Ed's played really well in that game, and it was a tough one for us. But, our goal this next year, if we get to play every game, would be 40-0. And that's what we could get to, would be 40-0 with the conference tournament and winning a national title. But, one team wins a national title out of over 300. So, if you're playing, I don't know, if you're playing blackjack or if you're playing anything in Vegas, those aren't very good odds, 300-1. Ryan Gagaro, you put it in his mutual fund, you're hopefully getting a better return than 300-1. But we got to play well, and we have to. We have a chance though to win it all. We got to stay healthy. We got to stay focused, and we got to get better every game. But we do have a chance to win it all with the guys that we have coming back.
John Teeters, you had a question. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
You bet. Go ahead.
Tom, I've really got two questions for you. Well, when I reflect back on last year's season, I think of that very first game with Lincoln Memorial where you guys were down, things were looking pretty bad. Then you made that fantastic comeback. Did that kind of really set the tempo for you this season? And then my second question is, how are you keeping tabs on the guys? And you just mentioned about them needing to improve over the off season. How are you kind of keeping tabs on them and and getting reports from them about how things are going?
Couple good questions, John. I'll see if I can remember. The first one was Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah.
And yeah, that game we started off, they were doing a little hooting and hollering down there at their end of the bench when we were shooting free throws and some other things. And you kind of take that personally a little bit. But we jumped on them early with Derek Geddes knocking down some threes, and then JoJo was playing really well. Quay didn't play real great to start the game, but we were up, and I thought we kind of let it get away from us a little bit, and it was kind of back and forth. And then you're right, they took the lead there at the end. They knocked down a three, and they were celebrating it like it was over. We set it up. We saw what they were doing a little bit. We called a timeout. And then you get it to a great player. And Quay made a great play. JoJo cleared out, so two guys went on him. Quay gets it, comes down. He makes a shot. We tie it up. And then we got the steal, John. I don't know if you remember that or not. We got the ball back. And I think it was Eric Mosley. No, I think it was John L. made a great pass to Quay. Quay catches it, kind of contorts his body and hits the back of the rim, and we almost win in regulation. But go to overtime and win that game. I think we shut them out in overtime, which was fantastic. But that was a very good team. And to win those games, you want to go play those games. Even if we would have lost, you want to go challenge and you want to go play the best competition you can. And so that was a big win for us. And it kind of set the stage, like you said, for the rest of the year. Second question was, how do we keep tabs? We actually gave some championship T-shirts away, and we put a little GPS tracking device in that shirt, John, and so we know where they're at all times. And if you're going to buy that, then we check up on them on Zoom a little bit. We'll call them. There are some guys here on campus, but for the most part, you've got to recruit, and you've got to get great kids that really are accountable and are self-accountable, that you don't have to check up on them all the time. And I think that's what we have are just some really good kids. They're going to make some mistakes here or there. Everybody is. But you've got to have kids in your program that are accountable for themselves. And then the really good ones, like an Eric Mosley, they'll be accountable for others as well. And that's what we really want JoJo, Quay, Derek Geddes to really step up this next year and be accountable for the rest of the guys. I think is so important to have a great team.
Lee Passmore, you had a question.
Oh, yeah. You lose only two players coming back from a team that was 32-1 last year, and obviously there is some disappointment of not getting to play in the tournament. You kind of think as far as you guys went this year with that foundation you had, that you maybe kind of be a continuation to next season, where I know each season is different from the previous season, but do you feel like it would be kind of easy to pick up from where you left off, because everyone's going to really have a great idea of what their role is going to be going into next year? And it's kind of be like, okay, you could sort of do a lot of the same things you did going into next season that you did at the end of this season.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think every season is different. I think chemistry is really important with any team. And, a guy like Cameron Bell this year, you didn't see him play. He was redshirting for us. He was a vital part of our team in getting our guys ready. And I know John L. and JoJo would always they'd always mumble a little bit because Cameron was pretty physical. And Cameron sometimes would get a little bit out of position and kind of run into those guys. But I thought it was great. And I thought it was something that, Jordan Collins did that too a lot. Jordan Collins was on our scout team quite a bit getting ready. And that not only helps our guys, but it also helps Jordan Collins a lot. And Jordan got to play some different roles, and he wasn't always on there, but when he was kind of a dog, and he'd get after those guys. And sometimes those starters don't like that, but you got to have guys that are willing to challenge everybody on the team and then be able to be off the court, be buddies. And I think that's something it's hard to do sometimes for 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, but you got to understand that we all have one goal, and that's to get better and to win that game on Thursday night or Saturday afternoon, whenever we're playing. And when it's practice time, hey, let's go after each other a little bit, but don't take anything personal. But as far as roles, you know, I don't want anybody to be pigeonholed into a role. I'd like Quay to score more. I'd like JoJo to score more. I'd like everybody to score more. You know, we averaged 90-plus points, but come on, let's get up to 100. Let's go up to 100. Let's average 100 points, and we stop teams. We held them to 70. Let's hold them to 60, and let's try to widen that gap if we can. And so you can only do that if you play every possession, don't take any plays off, and again, you believe in your teammates, and I think that's something that's really important. I think that's something that we really did well, and I think that's something we really did well in the conference tournament second half of St. Edward's. And I think that was, you know, if we could play like that all the way through, you know, I think we do have a good chance of going far in the playoffs this next year.
All right, Dan Schumann, you're next.
Great. I just had a couple of questions, Coach. One, in the recruiting, I know we've got John Brown, so we've got some height there, but who else do we have coming? We've got a team that has great verticals, and we understand that. You know, your guys can definitely get up, but you know, sometimes having a little more size can be good. And then the second question I have is, what can we as Buffalo Club members do to help you?
Oof, that is a loaded question. We might need a couple hours here to talk about that one. But I appreciate any help that the Buffalo Club has been fantastic, you know, and it's the supporters that we have down here are just, they're great. As far as recruiting, Coach Henderson, you want to take that one? Otherwise, I'll take it. You know, the height thing, you know, I think we're one of the shortest teams in the country this year, and we actually might try to go the other way, Dan. I'm going to try to find some shorter kids and see if we can keep beating up on teams and see how short we can go. Because it's kind of fun. You know, you go 32-1, you know, that way guys have more leg room when we take vans. You know, you have the issues on the planes with everybody's trying to get that, you know, the exit row. You know, it kind of leaves some room for Coach Henderson because he's a little bit taller guy. He gets a little bit extra room. And then if you don't have the bigger guys, they don't eat as much, so you save a little bit on budget as well. But, you know, recruiting, I don't know. You know, I think we'll figure it out. I can't really say too much, but our general rule for recruiting is if we can get everybody from Canyon High School and we can win a national title, we're going to go get those kids. If we can't get them at Canyon, then we'll go to Hereford, and then we'll go to Lubbock, and then we'll just keep branching out until we can find the players that first of all, want to come to WT and that we feel can really make a positive impact on WT. And we've got some great ones coming in. You know, Parker Nielsen has already signed with us. He's going to be a very good player. He's going to have to compete, though. You know, it's not going to be just walk in and he gets to play. It's going to be tough for him. It's going to be tough for Cameron Bell, who redshirted. He knows how tough these guys are ahead of him. And so hopefully those guys will get better, and we'll keep getting better as a team. But, you know, to go 32-1, and we started, you know, is Quay 6'1"? Yeah, I'd give Quay 6'1". Otherwise, JoJo and John L are probably 6 foot or less. And then, you know, Eric Mosley was a strapping 6'5", and Derek Geddes 6'4". But Derek played like he was about 6'9", and so did Mo. So, you know, the height is important, but you want to be able to play big, not just be big. So that's kind of how I feel. Now, if Bob Robinson's on here, Bob, we will get somebody that can rebound the basketball for you next year.
Bob's out there, Tom. Hey,
all right.
We've got a couple questions on our chat, so I'm going to read them to you, and we'll get your response. The first one is regarding your two seniors, and the question is there anything we as fans can do to offer up support or emotional recovery for JC and Eric? They believe they lost the most from this unprecedented situation. Would we be in favor of honoring them somehow at the first home game or during the season just to show our appreciation?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I'd like to be able to do something really special for those two guys. I don't know what that is yet. You know, it's kind of what just with the virus and everything going around, it's kind of a wait and see right now. I'm hoping that we'll be back to normal when football and volleyball season rolls around. And yeah, I would like to honor those guys. Jordan will be back next year. He's going to take some classes, and he's going to use some of the Maurice Cheek scholarship to pay for those classes. So those that raised all the money and got the endowment going for the Maurice Cheek scholarship, a big thank you to you. And that's the Schaefers, the Peels, and others. Without that, Jordan, I don't know if he'd finish his degree. It's hard to finish a degree sometimes in 4 years. And, Jordan switched majors. So then now you're behind a little bit. It's always funny when you talk recruiting. I had a kid that wants to go into engineering, and, I'm talking with him, and JoJo's actually in engineering. And I was talking with this kid, and he ended up deciding to go to a junior college. And I'm going, okay, you're going to go to a junior college, but you want to go into engineering. Well, you're going to be so far behind because you've got to get into the engineering program right away when you go into a WT, or I think any 4-year school, because first of all, it's a very hard program, but then your classes are pretty regimented, and you've got to get in there and get going on that program right away. And, he was telling me how serious he was about school, but I don't know, that was kind of a questionable one. Anyways, getting back to the Jordan and Eric, yes, let's do something really special for them. And let's do something, I don't know, maybe we could dedicate a month to them. It was always Moses month in March. He was March Mose, but maybe we could have, I don't know, maybe an October Mose or November Mose, something like that. But I'd like to get Eric back. Jordan will be around, and yes, let's do something special for him. We can collaborate that, and we can talk about that more. If anybody has suggestions, you can always email them to me, and let's do it.
All right, Coach, another chat question from Ryan Gargaro, and excuse me if I mispronounced your name, but he's noticed that you coached a lot of great guards like Zach Malvik, Travis Whipple, Josh Schneider, David Chavlovic. How do you keep turning out such great talent at the guard position?
Yes, good question, Ryan. Was it Ryan Gargaro? The one thing that you have to have, you do have to have some great guards. And, I still can't, it's hard to believe that we have 2 All-American guards, and we had David Zellman was a really good player for us. Zach Melvick was part of the picture in the background right here with the guy with his hands on his head here was Brandon Stromer. But, JoJo and Quay, All-Americans as sophomores, come on. That's really, really impressive. And, but guys want to play with those guys. And I think that's something that's really, really important is those guys are humble, but yet they still want to get better. I think the guy that started it all was David Chavlovic. And David, I think it was a perfect storm for David as well as for us, because David loved to shoot, never saw a shot that he didn't like. And we actually needed a guy like that. You have Tommy Gove, who was kind of his counter partner, and Tommy never wanted to shoot unless he was wide open and just wanted to play defense and be part of that team. And I think it was a great backcourt with Chavlovic and Gove from the Appleton West way back when. But yeah, you've got to locate great talent. Coach Henderson is the guy bringing these guys in. Coach Gove is the guy bringing these guys in. I kind of get to just sit back and take a lot of the credit. And it's so important to have such a great staff. And we do. We have the best staff, I think. We've got the best staff in college basketball in the Panhandle, that's for sure. I'm gonna say that we definitely have that, and then we can go branch out from that. But we do have a great staff. It's a lot of fun, and I think our players see that we have a lot of fun, and so it's something that it works well for us.
Another question from Kathy Rogers. She's noticing that the courts are closed. Kids are having tough time finding places to play. Where are they able to shoot around right now? And she's wondering about the opportunity to reopen the gyms for kids to get back in. Obviously, the COVID-19 restrictions play into that.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure when they're going to open up. I've been hit up numerous times by former players, and trying to get into the FUB, but I do have a key to it. I'm very lucky, I'm fortunate, but I haven't gone in there, and I won't let anybody go in there. Our maintenance has done a great job of cleaning it all up, getting it ready to go. So when we do get to reopen, it's ready to go. I know our guys have probably been missing, the live action, but we've kind of recommended getting on and playing a little 2K and playing some video games just to make sure that they understand and they can kind of watch a little bit. So I'm sure our guys are doing that, and hopefully they're listening to me and playing some video games as well as getting after it academically as well too.
All right, Coach Pamela Hames, noticed a little while ago you said that the games are won in the summer and in the off season. So her question is, do you give the players some specific things to work on during the off season to help in the improvement?
Yes, we do. We've got, Matt's, I'll tell you what, you don't do it just with Coach Henderson, Coach Gove are great. We also have Jesse McIntyre, our strength is our trainer, and then our strength and conditioning coach, Matt Segura. Those two guys are so vital because Jesse's giving them different things to do to kind of condition their body and to make sure that they're not overusing or overdoing things. And then you got on the other side, Matt Segura really pushing them, getting them in the weight room, getting them bigger, stronger, quicker, things like that. And then we also we've got ball handling workouts, shooting workouts, and hopefully our guys are doing a lot of the things that we do in practice. I don't think, we really don't even use all of our time in the fall for practices, but we do some individual workouts. And then all throughout the year, the things that we do in practice is what I'd like them to do. And I'd also like them to expand on that. And they know that when we have our individual meetings at the end of the year, and we did those through Zoom this year, we gave them some specific things that we want them to do. John Brown loves to shoot threes. All right. And he's not bad at it, but we really want him working inside. We want him, hey, we get you a paint touch. That ball's either going in or you're going to the free throw line. And that's something that's really important. Now, it's hard for him to find guys that are as big as him to practice against, but he can do it. Now, the hardest thing right now, like Pamela said and Kathy has said, is finding a court. But I know Hayden talked to him a little bit. His court is open down there. Quay actually said that he found a court, and you gotta be kind of, you've got to find a place, whether it's a driveway, whatever. And you don't want to go too hard because there's going to be guys that'll try to take a shot at a college player showing that they can play. But, it's okay to take a little bit of time off. I think, in the next month, we'll be back at it here, and hopefully then our guys can really get after it.
All right, Helen Peel, you're up. You're still muted. I tell you what, Helen, we'll come back to you in just a second. Got another question on the chat here, Tom. Kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's got some relevance to it. What do you credit the calmer sideline demeanor this past season to? We believe the sports coat was only removed twice all season. That was on the road at LCU and again on the road down at International. Very impressive.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. I don't know.
32 wins probably helps.
I'm thinking next year we're going to get 3 black sweaters and have Coach Gove, Coach Henderson, and myself just go black sweater for every game. Would that be okay?
With the proper logo.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Helen, let's try again.
Unmuted.
There we go.
All right, Coach, I know
Yes.
that D1 schools recruit our good players. What do you do about that?
Well, we try to find out who's doing that. We get a baseball bat and we go to their house and knock on the door. No, we can't do that. And you know what? If a player wants to go somewhere, that's up to them. We're going to go get the next player. I said it a little bit earlier too. When we do our recruiting, there's guys there might be some talented players out there. And this happened especially our first year that maybe had some baggage or this or that. But the most important thing for me is I want players that want to be here, that understand how special of a place this is and what we're trying to accomplish. I'd rather have a guy that just works his butt off, like Rylan Gerber. Gotch worked his butt off. Now, Gotch took a lot of shots and loved to shoot, and I think he was a fan favorite. I loved him. But when it came time to play defense and to win, Gotch was always there. And the same thing with Rylan and Tommy and David. David Chalvik, he's the all-time leading scorer, but David loved to play, loved to compete. And, David's brother went to 4 different schools. David was right here. David was kind of in that same situation after his first year. Hey, what should I do? And he stayed, and then he was Player of the Year as a sophomore, and he had a great career and had a chance to play overseas. And then this year got cut short in Australia. But David is a success story, and I think I used him a lot in recruiting. But you got to find the players that want to be here, and I think that's really, really important. But yeah, it is tough. If the D1 schools are kind of doing some illegal things, I'd like to know about it. But I think our guys are really bought into what we want to accomplish next year, and so I think a lot of these little Division I's, if they're recruiting them, I think they could just go away, because I think we'd beat them anyways. But it's always a tough one.
All right, Coach, I'm going to divert just a minute before we take another question. We mentioned earlier Jordan Collins is on our Zoom. Jordan, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Glad to have you here. I'm going to ask you something, but first we've got a question from BuffNation. Just wanting to know, and I know it's early, but how are you handling not having college basketball as your daily routine right now?
Well, I kind of look at it as April 2nd would have been the last day of the national tournament. So I kind of felt like I'm just living regular days right now. It hurt when it first happened, and it gradually got better over time, but I still got to get my degree and, make my parents happy about that. So that's really the main thing about it. I just kind of don't think about the basketball part as much right now.
I'm going to ask you to think about the basketball part right now. You played your entire career for the Buffaloes, a lot of games. As Coach mentioned, you won more games than anybody that's ever worn the uniform. Pick one game as the one that stands out in your mind as being your favorite game.
My last game. Because we won and I got a three-peat. That was a great accomplishment for me. It's probably the best one overall. Maybe my senior night too, just because that was my last game playing on the floor at the First United Bank Center. Probably those 2 games. For my senior year, my junior year, after Tarleton, when we found out that we won the conference, that was a great one. Sophomore year, getting to the Elite Eight for the first time and seeing what that's like, probably just like those, for each year. But definitely my last game probably stuck with me the most, just because it was the last time I was on the floor, and I actually remember that one the best,
You painted a pretty good canvas right there. Lucas Kinsey and I, when we broadcast games, always commented nobody was ever happier when a shot fell than Jordan Collins. The smile would just light up the arena. I'm gonna go a spot here that's not so happy, but you're a senior and you've been so good about putting your thoughts into words. The day that we found out that the South Central Region tournament and the rest of the season was canceled, you guys had just wrapped up your final regular season practice of the year. I was in the arena with our NCAA site rep going over locker room assignments and that kind of stuff. And it was about 4:15. You guys had just finished your practice, and the call came, and Coach explain to you guys what was about to take place. Can you give us an idea of the emotion and the feeling that the team felt at that moment and how you processed it?
Well, just to go on that, I think beforehand, before practice started, the SEC and another conference canceled their tournament. So we knew that it was starting to get a lot more serious at the D1 level. So we were kind of wondering what they was going to do at the D2 level. But once we got into the practice, we just treated like a regular practice, going over our personnel, And then, you know, we kind of noticed that it was someone coming in and out. And then we noticed like Brown, Henderson, and Gold walked over there, and me and Mose, you know, we're the only team. So we trying to like process what's going on. We getting that vibe like, oh, they about to like shut it down for us. And, you know, like my emotions don't hit instantly, but for Mose, it kind of started hitting him instantly. And then like once coach started to come back to the circle after we stretch and explain like what's going on, and he was telling us about our great accomplishments that we did. He started naming each one, and you know, then Coach Henderson talked about it too, and then said that we can't do nothing about it. It's out of their control. On top of that, so then I started feeling like, wow, like they took the season away from us. And then, you know, being seniors, you notice that the juniors and sophomores, they feel like, wow, the season's over, but they think like, oh, we got another year to make it happen again, you know. And then for me and Mose, I think it just turned out worse, like as the day just kept going. And then we had to say, like, give our hugs out at the end of practice to coaches, telling them thank you and stuff like that, you know. But yeah, it was a little crazy when it first happened.
Well, it certainly was a lot of fun watching you play your 4 years, watching you develop. You know, Coach mentioned the players developing from one year to the next. And, you know, you came in originally known for your shooting. By your senior year, you were just as much of a shutdown defender as what JoJo was. So talk a little bit about that. I know it didn't come without a lot of hard work.
Well, as far as like the defensive scheme, we just learned it from Henderson and Coach Gold going over and practice, and being there for 4 years, it kind of like just came a part of me. So it became like second nature in a sense. As far as like the other things about defense, I think like, I don't know. Can you ask him again so I can keep going? I'm sorry.
Good coaching there. Wayne Freeman, did you have another question?
I noticed John Brown was on the call, and
Yeah.
I just wondered from John what it was like to transition into a program like WT, very successful program, coming from D1, and then what can we expect from John in the future?
Yeah, going through the whole recruitment process, WT was like, you know, it was my last school that I went to, and it was an easy decision. You know, I got here and just the coaching staff and just knowing like the program history and just, you know, the teammates, the players are about work, and so it was a pretty easy decision. And you know, I don't regret it at all. You know, I'm super excited just to, you know, put in the work this off season and see what we can do next year.
I'm trying to cry a little bit thinking about it. Oh my goodness.
John, let's keep it with you for a minute. You've been to several universities, as everyone knows. This is the first season that you have actually really got to play and contribute. Talk a little bit about the feeling of, you know, finally coming off the squad, so to speak, and being a part of the team.
Yeah, it's, you know, with my 3 years at universities.
You're muted, John.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just you know, when I was at other universities, it's tough to just sit on the sideline and just redshirt or be injured or just things like that. So I was super grateful and super excited just to come to WT and have an opportunity to really be a part of you know, this program and this team and really just play a lot, and I'm just super grateful for that.
And let's keep it in the Buff family right now. Derek Geddes on board. Hey, DG, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Are you back down in Houston?
Yes, sir.
Sweet. Hey, tell us a little bit about your development from your freshman year to this year. I mean, your freshman year, you come on the floor, inject energy, usually a shot block or two. This year, from the get-go involved. You know, we figured out that more often than not, you scored the first bucket of the game for the Buffaloes more often than not. But talk a little bit about your transition from your first year learning the game to now, and how you're feeling as you go into next season.
Right. Well, it's more from my like I said, my freshman year. It was more understanding the game, learning the game, especially from some big time players like Quay and Gotch. Like just learning a lot from them and understanding, and when I get in the game, just going 100%, and like a lot of the things that even like after the game, like I said, ooh, I sit back and I ask Quay why you did this, how you did this and stuff like that, and try to learn it, and going into my sophomore year, produce, and like I say, like asking them those questions and stuff is all about preparation, like learning, and like I said, like they say, when the opportunity comes, you gotta present yourself.
All right, questions for Buff basketball program. Little wave of the hand if you got anything. Let's see, Richard Jackson. Let's unmute the phone and away we go. You're still muted, Richard. Tell you what, we'll come back there. I see a wave and a blue blouse, but there's no name, so we're going to go to you. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Claudia Stewart. First of all, good afternoon to everyone, and I'm so glad to see the players joining in on the Zoom. I just wanted to know, what do they do to stay fit, being staying at home? And also, I know that they're probably chomping at the bit just to get back in the classroom as well. So can they comment on that?
Hey, Derek, why don't you take this? What are you doing to stay in shape right now?
At the moment, I mean, I got a couple of dumbbells and stuff like that I had since high school. So I'm pretty much using those and a couple of things that Matt, the trainer, he taught me in the weight room. And pretty much, like, I'll go some mornings to the track, like, try to go to them, when it's empty and nobody there, just to get some fresh air. That's pretty much almost just about the only time I can get out the house. Other than that, just watching Netflix. But yeah, just staying in the house, getting a little workout in, some good working on abs and stuff like that in that nature.
And I see that Jonelle Fugett's joined us. Jonelle, how are you doing this afternoon? Can you hear us, Jonelle?
Hold on. Can you hear me?
There you go. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I kind of just woke up.
Well, we know how you're staying in shape. Question was just asked about what you guys are doing with this shelter in place and the gyms not being open. How are you staying in shape right now?
My trainer has a privately owned gym that he only lets a couple people go into, and so he lets me in there. It's a little bit far away. It's kind of like Texas, like everything's spread out, but it's about an hour and 15 minutes away. So I just drive down there like twice a week.
And you're back home in Denver right now?
Mm-hmm. I'm in Denver. And I also go to one of my other mentors. He has a basement set up. And I go to his little basement gym type thing. And he has me on like some type of boxing conditioning type deal. So I'm trying.
And all right, Buff Nation, any more questions for Coach Brown, Coach Henderson? We've got Jordan Collins, John Brown, Derek Geddes, Jonelle Fugett on with us. We've got about 5 minutes left.
I have a quick question. Can I chime in real quick?
Go ahead.
So, and you guys might not have an answer for this, but I'm just wondering, has the NCAA or any entity spoken to what the season is going to look like for next year? It might be too early to tell. And I know football's got to go first, but just curious if they've had conversations with you guys about it.
There's definitely discussion going on right now. Nothing has been finalized. And I think it's, hopefully something will be worked out here within the next month or two. Like you said, football, volleyball, Those are huge. I'm really hoping those are full speed ahead, because if those are, then we'll be next. But right now it's kind of just sit back and wait and see. Time will tell. But I don't think there's been any definite decisions as of right now.
Richard Jackson, you have a question, sir.
Yeah, my question for the coach is about the Lone Star Conference and the alignment. What are you all saying about that? Are you going to go on with it, or you look for it to change?
Dick, good question. Right now it's status quo, but you just never know. You never know with, maybe some financial things with some schools. Maybe they won't be able to continue on. There's been some schools that have cut some programs, but as of right now, it's status quo. I hope we can keep it that way. It wouldn't be bad to add maybe a couple more and then have a north and a south. But with Tarleton leaving, now we have a lone wolf. So there's 17 teams in the conference, and what they're doing is they're still going to have 3 pods. They're just going to have 1 pod that'll have 5, and that school, Tyler, UT Tyler, will be the lone wolf, and so they don't have a travel partner. So it'll be a little bit tougher for them, but right now it's kind of still status quo. And within the conference for basketball, anyways, we'll have 1 more conference game than that pod of 5, if that makes sense. But right now it's still status quo. We've got a great non-conference schedule right now, and Thanksgiving tournament is going to be really good. We've got Oklahoma Baptist, who was in the national tournament. They were scheduled to play Northwest Missouri State in the first round. They're coming over to our place. And then also Southwestern Oklahoma State. So we have 2 D2 schools coming in for Thanksgiving, which is something we haven't had in the last few years, but we got that worked out. We still want to try to do our community game again this year, if we can get that in. I thought that was a great event this last year. We had schools from all over, from the Tascosa, Amarillo, Randall, all those schools. The junior highs came down, and it was a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, there's some great, you think about it, there's some great high school teams in the area now too. And I can't mention any specifics, but boy, it's been fun watching the local teams play. I think the local teams have gotten a lot better. I don't know why, it's kind of cyclical here and there, but some of these teams are getting pretty good in the area. It's fun to go out and watch these high school teams, and I'm really looking forward to doing more of that next year. We have the early practice, so I can get out and watch a little bit more next year, and should be a lot of fun with the high school sports as well.
All right, we've got time for one more question from the audience, if anyone has one. Oh, this is a loaded question out there. We've got a Gove on the line.
Okay, I like it. Let's finish strong.
My question, Coach Brown, is that I've noticed that my cousin, your assistant coach, Chris Gove, I guess you guys call him, but I noticed that I can't say that in a mixed group, but I've noticed that he never wears a tie when he coaches. I'm a retired funeral director, and I have like 150 ties. If I were to send you a tie, would you tie it for him and put it on him, please?
I can definitely do that. Now, where are you getting these ties from?
Oh, that's well, you take them where you get them, actually.
Hey, David, I don't want the ties from the funeral home, but I do want all the gold teeth you can that you pull out of their mouths after you have the funeral.
That's really nice, Arf. That's how I can afford those trips to go watch you coach. Watch you coach, which is sometimes pretty exciting, actually.
Hey, we'll get a tie. I think he's out. Coach Gove could be the best dressed on the bench.
Oh, he looks cool.
I always wear a tie. Just take it off right after the game.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. When he comes out and does his pregame, he's got the tie on, but it comes off awfully quick. It's quicker than Tom's jacket.
Hey, easy, Ken.
All right, Buff Nation, that's our time with Buff Basketball. We want to say thank you to Coach Tom Brown, Quincy Henderson, a late arrival there from Chris Gove, as well as our players that have joined us today. It was an incredible ride this season. As with everything else we've talked about on our Zoom chats this past week, a funky ending, but at 32-1, nothing to be disappointed or ashamed of. It was an incredible ride. We certainly look forward to next year. Next week, we're going to look at golf on Tuesday. It's going to be Lady Buff head coach Meredith Jameson. We'll talk Lady Buff golf, one of the nation's premier Division II women's golf programs. And on Thursday, we'll have the newest member of the Buff coaching staff, Axel Ochoa. He is the Buff men's golf coach. So you can put on your visors and your spikes. I guess they still wear metal-free spikes in golf, and we'll talk chipping and putting and Buff and Lady Buff golf next week. We appreciate everyone being on today's Zoom with Coach Brown. Everybody stay safe. Thanks for joining us. Go Buffs.
Thanks, Kent. Thanks for coming on, everyone.
Go Buffs.